Hey, Dr. Karp here, and we're going to do an overview of the Weight Loss Awakening system, which is basically great because this is sort of evolving as we get to know each other and as we interact and as I present topics. The feedback that I get is sort of allowing me to sort of hone in on the important principles that are important to this system that we're developing together. Let's get into it. First is that there are 4 pillars of health, and we've gone through this many times, but it's important to review that there is 4 aspects to your health, 4 aspects to learning how to lose weight, 4 aspects to gaining health. Everything about health fits into these 4 pillars. The first is nutrition, second is environmental state, then the psyche and spirit, and then movement. All of these things are incredibly important, and we need to look at each and every one of them because they all interact in various ways. For example, toxins in your food relate to nutrition and environment. All of these things interact. The next is that there are 4 levels of being, and that means that we exist on 4 major levels: physical, emotional, intellectual, and spiritual. And not all of us are integrated with these things, because if we were, we'd be some kind of amazing saint or something like that. But we need to be aware that of the decisions that we make, sometimes we're making them based only on physical thinking. Sometimes, for a lot of us, it's emotionally based thinking that overpowers everything else. But what if we could look at things and step back, insert that space that we talked about, and say, okay, how is this affecting me on a physical level? Do I understand the emotional impact of making this health choice? Do I understand it from an intellectual perspective? How is it affecting my body from a intellectual perspective? And then spiritual, how is it furthering my spiritual growth, or is it somehow hindering my spiritual growth? So it's an important aspect to sort of just pay attention to the 4 levels. Next is that when we're on the path, we need a mentor. Even I need a mentor when it comes to health, because when I talk to my teachers, they see things in me that I'm doing wrong that are not furthering my health. And that's coming from somebody like me who is constantly reading about health. So we all need someone, and we need to go out and make that person, find that person. There's a saying from a book called Ethics of the Fathers, which is an ancient Jewish book, and it says, make for yourself a teacher, acquire for yourself a friend, and judge every person on the positive side. And this saying put all these 3 things together, because although they may not seem like they're connected, they're very connected. And so we do need a teacher. I can certainly act as that mentor if we interact, but ultimately the most important thing, or I'd say the most advantageous thing, would be for you to find someone in your life. They don't have to be an expert. They can sort of observe and be able to pinpoint things that maybe you're doing wrong that you can't see, because we're not perfect at looking at ourselves. The next is to acquire for yourself a friend. So we're talking about fellowship and friendship, and in that case, this group is great because we encourage each other. We also are honest with ourselves, and at least that's what the intention of this group is. And so I believe we've made friends here, and so that part of it is good. Next is favorable judging. So we should judge every person on the positive side. And, it's like that saying, don't judge a man unless he walked a mile in his moccasins, that sort of thing. The reason that's important is because it softens our approach to ourselves. And oftentimes, every religion speaks about it, that when we are compassionate to others, we soften the judgment to ourselves, and we often judge ourselves too severely, and that's not helpful when it comes to being on this path. I added this sort of dropping expectations, and the reason I added it is because when you always have an expectation of something, it means that you've sort of solidified the outcome. We always need to be open to possibility, and it fills your life a little bit more with wonder when you drop expectations, when everything that you do, you're open to it. Whatever happens. When we constrict the outcome of everything that we do to something that we are expecting, then we are pushing away possibility, pushing away all kinds of different things that could enter our lives but don't because we're expecting this person to behave a certain way, we're expecting this intervention to do this, we're expecting this, we're expecting that. Let's try to drop expectations. We're now on this new path, and we're on this new road, and although it appears a little bit rocky when we first get started, let's be open to who we might meet, let's be open to what might happen, and that's what keeps things interesting, and it keeps things fresh and alive. It doesn't constrict yourself. Next is focusing on aims instead of goals. A goal is a fixed outcome, and only God knows what the outcome is. So it's great to have an aim, but not so great to have a goal. We want to get healthier. We want to lose weight. Okay, so that's our goal. We are moving on that path in that direction. So an aim is a direction to go. It's very much like everything in life that we see. It's like a ship, and a ship is moving forward, and it's got to sometimes zigzag and course correct at every moment, but it's got his eye focused on that direction. So pick your direction, pick where you want to go, drop your expectations, leave them to God, and just move in that direction that you want to go, which is healthier, which is achieving the ideal body weight that is going to be optimal for your health. And that's really what we want to focus on, that direction. So here are the secret weapons, and I put a few quotes here on the side. But first is gratitude and celebration. So, of course, gratitude is something that we need to practice on a regular basis. There's a quote from Abraham Joshua Heschel. It says, "The man of our time is losing the power of celebration. Instead of seeking to celebrate, he seeks to be amused or entertained. Celebration is an active state, an act of expressing reverence or appreciation. To be entertained is a passive state. It is to receive pleasure afforded by an amusing act or spectacle. Entertainment is a diversion, a distraction of the attention of the mind from the preoccupations of daily living. Celebration is a confrontation, giving attention to the transcendent meaning of one's actions." There's always something to be grateful for, and there's always something to celebrate. Inwardly directed relaxation is basically where we inwardly focus, and that could be prayer, that could be massage, that could be deep breaths in the bathtub, but it has to be inwardly directed. Psalms are incredibly powerful. It's super powerful. If you're a Christian or Jewish and you haven't used Psalms just to gather strength, then I would suggest you give it a try. Next is dancing. Is always a type of celebration. There's always a reason to dance. And if you're not dancing and you used to like to dance, then it's important that you get back into that. And then journaling so that we can look at ourselves from a distance so that we can see what's going on in our lives from a more objective perspective. Now, the nutrition comes down to basically 4 suggestions. First is 1 pound of leafy greens per day, half raw, half cooked. 1 handful of raw nuts per day. 2 tablespoons of ground flax seeds per day, and I've added 2 tablespoons of a natural probiotic like sauerkraut or kimchi. I've made other videos on this, so go into my other videos so that you can go into more detail. Obviously, there are things that we eliminate, but in this program we're focused more on addition than subtraction. Next is environmental influences. So I made an entire video on this, but clean water, avoid plastics as much as possible, get BPA-free cans, and avoid paper receipts. I know that sounds crazy, but there's a lot of BPA in there, which is a synthetic hormone, and it can affect you in various ways. And, not everyone is affected by plastics. Not everyone is affected by toxins. Humans have an incredible capacity to detoxify their bodies through natural enzyme processes in the liver, but there's a small subset of people who are affected. And so it's important that we are aware of these things and we take action on them. Next is psyche and spirit. And I think, we've gone through this pretty much, but gratitude, celebration. Next is mental imagery, which I still haven't really gotten through to teaching because I need sort of someone to volunteer for that. So if you want to volunteer, let me know in the comments below. Next is fellowship and friendship, which we've discussed, and then again, Psalms for those people who believe in God and believe in the Bible. These are incredible sources of strength, that can be game changers. Next is movement and mechanics. 2 sessions of 1 hour walking per week at a minimum. Work yourself up to that. I think yoga, tai chi, or qigong are incredibly valuable and in a lot of ways can be that inwardly focused relaxation that takes place. I happen to do a form of qigong daily, which is incredible, has been incredible for me. High intensity interval training, I went through in another lecture. It's certainly something you need to get the approval of your doctor, but basically go into my other videos so that you can go into that. Some sort of resistance training, whether that's just body weight or bands or weights. And then ongoing, continual sleep improvement, learning about sleep. I'll be doing a separate video on sleep improvement. In fact, I'll probably do that right after this one because it just occurred to me that we haven't really spent much time on sleep. And if we are not rested enough, we're not able to make any decisions in any of the 4 pillars, in any of the 4 levels, because we are just stressed. And when we get stressed, when we get cortisol in our bodies, cortisol makes our fat actually blow up. Those cells actually get bigger when we have cortisol in our body, when we're stressed. And if we're sleep deprived, that is an immediate stressor. It also impacts blood sugar for 48 hours. Just one night of poor sleep affects blood sugar for 48 hours. And as a result of that, that's going to affect everything from of course, your blood sugar, but also all of the cravings that you get. So that, my friends, is a brief summary of Weight Loss Awakening. I hope you enjoyed this video. For a lot of you, this is a review, but we've gotten a lot of new visitors, which I welcome to the group, and we're all very excited to have you here. That gives a basic overview. Please ask questions, because the only way that this is going to evolve into a more efficient, more productive, clearer type of program is by you providing me with questions. So please ask questions. There's no stupid questions. Also, I might make note of one thing, and that is that this idea of journaling, food journaling, is incredibly powerful, and mental imagery is incredibly powerful. And the reason I mention those 2 things is because I'm asking for 2 volunteers, or I should say any number of volunteers, for both. Maybe you just want to learn mental imagery that sort of helps you with getting your mind in the right place, or you want to learn, or you want me to review your journal so that I could be sort of your mentor, and we can all, I'd like to record that. You can be anonymous. You can contact me, privately if you don't want me to record it, or I'll do it for you. Fine, no problem. You don't have to pay or anything. I'll do it for free, and it'll just be one-on-one. But I would love it if we would have someone who would be interested in me recording that so that we could put it onto the group and we could all learn from it. Anyway, don't want to make this video too long. This is Dr. Karp. Thank you so much for being part of the group. I'm having a great time with it. I'm getting an enormous amount of satisfaction and happiness from the amount of growth that I'm seeing and the community that's forming. And what can I say? Look forward to chatting with you on the group, and I'll see you next time.